I love bugs. I really do. I love insects. I'm a kindergarten teacher, and sometimes I'm known as the bug guy around campus. I think insects are one of the most fascinating things I've ever come across, and for many of the young learners I work with every day, it's for them too. Now, I grew to become a bug lover in order to try to solve a problem. And what is that problem? Well, it's a global issue. It's a growing disconnect between children and nature. Now, I grew up in rural Eastern Canada. My childhood was all about running through the forest, playing in ponds and streams, catching frogs, toads, snakes, tadpoles, bringing them home to show my parents and my friends. Now, almost like a lifetime later, it seems, when I was in my mid-20s, I became a teacher and I moved to South Korea. I lived in a city with millions of people. And in that huge city, it couldn't be any more different than the childhood I had growing up in a rural area. Now, again, like I mentioned, I grew up in nature. That's me at 2 years old, getting touchy-feely with some daisies. Now, once I was in South Korea for a few years, I realized that there was something I was missing, something that I took for granted my whole life, and that was nature, the outdoors. Now, of course, there were mountains in and around the city. There were mountains all over the place, actually. But anytime I would seem to go hiking, there were just people everywhere. Lots of people. So now, we move ahead a few years after that. I find myself in Japan teaching. And I was really fortunate to work at a school that was beside a massive park. And I got to go there each and every morning with my students. That park had so many different types of habitats. It had streams, it had fields, it had forests and pathways, and lots of wildlife. I went there every day, and I was soon hooked. I was totally hooked. I bought some bird field guides, some bug field guides, and I started learning about all the animals and things that were around that park. But then there was something else I noticed with a lot of the students that I would teach every day. Not only did they not have a connection to nature, a lot of them were scared of it. They really were. Now, I, at that point, decided I needed to learn more. And what was really cool was that elementary school students I got to work with taught me a lot about the outdoors. You see, from Monday to Friday, I was a kindergarten teacher. But on Saturdays, I would teach an all-day ESL class to Japanese public school students. And those kids were connected. It was incredible. Now, those kids, again, taught me a lot about the outdoors. Now, back to my students who were scared of things. It wasn't their fault. Now, there is a term that was coined by Richard Louv, who is a very well-known outdoor play advocate, and that is nature deficit disorder. And a lot of the kids I taught, I realized, had nature deficit disorder. Now, nature deficit disorder is the idea that human beings, especially children, are spending less time outdoors, and the belief that this change results in a wide range of behavioral problems. So, the children who I taught, it wasn't their fault that they were scared of the outdoors. They were afraid of something they'd never been exposed to. They were afraid of the unknown. So if you grow up in a big city where you just can't run out the door into nature, if you grow up with parents who tell you that nature is dangerous, that it's dirty, of course you're not going to have any kind of connection. So one of the really cool things about Japan is that they celebrate the outdoors. They celebrate nature. They celebrate bugs. They do. This is really cool. On a Saturday night, you can turn on primetime TV and see famous Japanese comedians and actors dressed in bug costumes having a show about beetles or fireflies. I'm not joking. This really happens. I think it's so cool. There is a TV show that my son and I and my family enjoy watching called SOS. And that show, my son reminded me, is actually on tonight. It's on Friday nights. And in that show, they take famous Japanese singers, musicians, comedians, actors, and they team them up with groups of conservationists and scientists. And what do? They go to ponds, rivers, streams, waterways that are polluted and filled with invasive species. And together, those celebrities And the scientists remove the invasive species, they clean it up, and bring it back to its kind of pristine level that it once was. So, all of this inspired me so much that I was basically head over heels in buck love. I metamorphosized and came out of my cocoon, so to speak. I decided to try to become as much of an expert as I could. Non-stop watching YouTube videos about hornets and wasps, reading books after book after book, and getting outside and engaging with the outdoors. And why do I do this? Well, I feel that the more knowledge I have about nature, the better teacher I can be. And the more knowledge I have, I can hook in those kids. And bugs are a fantastic way to hook in kids. I can hook those kids in and teach them to have a love of the outdoors that I have. Now, children, they need to be outdoors. It's that simple. Sunlight is healthy. Vitamin D is something we need. Children need exercise, and what better way to get exercise than to run around outside? Also, children need to learn to take risks. Yeah, we want to keep them safe as parents and teachers, but if we keep them wrapped up in bubbles, they'll never truly understand what they're capable of doing. They need to have unstructured time in the world to just learn who they are. And children need to learn to appreciate nature. I love this term, this quote. This is from the Harvard Health blog. So much of our world is changing, and not for the better. If a child grows up never walking in the woods, digging in soil, seeing animals in their habitat, climbing a mountain, playing in a stream, or staring at the endless horizon of an ocean, they may never really understand what there is to be lost. The future of our planet depends on our children. They need to learn to appreciate it. So, I decided, well, actually every day I look at the children I interact with, and they're amazing. They're intelligent, they're creative, and I know they're going to grow up to do amazing things. And a dream I often have is that someday I'm going to meet a person that I taught as a child, and they're going to be a scientist, they're going to be a biologist, or an ornithologist, a conservationist, or a politician, a lawyer, a doctor, a change maker who cares about the outdoors. So, I've taken my leap to try to become an expert on all things nature. These are my kids, by the way. That's a cicada. I try to become as much of an expert as I can in hopes that I can hook more kids in and get them as passionate about the outdoors as I am. Now, the one thing that I can say to everyone in this room, to every child, to every teenager, to every grown-up, okay, what I want you to do, maybe not right now, let's wait till tomorrow. I want you to go outside, get outdoors, look at a tree, look at a flower a little more slowly than you ever have before. Learn about biodiversity. Learn about all the cool critters that are right here in Shenzhen. There's a lot of neat stuff living around here that's not human, okay? And I want you to remember that you can all do incredible things, okay? I'm going to try to do my part, and I hope you will too. Thank you.